Hey, Rick Tryon with BibleRebel.com here. So, how did we get the Bible? Um, in the first part of this Bible 101 series, we talked about and asked the question, isn't the Bible just a book written by men? And we answered that question by pointing out that the scripture speaks of itself, that yes, it was written by men, but given by inspiration of God. And so in this part of the series, we want to get into the canon of Scripture, or how we got the Bible as we know it today, and how we got the parts put together. Now, instead of going into a lot of the scholarly and detailed history of how that all happened, I'm going to recommend a book at the end of this part that will help you understand that. But for right now, I want to just tell you a story or an analogy that I hope you'll find helpful in understanding how we got the Bible put together in the way it is today. And we'll just call the story, She Oversaw the Project. So a long, long time ago, there was a man who lived in America with his wife and his growing children. And one day, he got notification from his superiors that he was to go to England and serve a tour of duty in England for a couple of years. And so it so happened that when he got to England, the town he was stationed in happened to be the town his wife grew up in before she moved to America and met him. So she had friends and relatives in this town, and knew most of the people in the town. So as the man started his duty there, and he would go out to dinner, and he would go to the barber shop, and he would work in the field with his co-workers. And when he was doing all of these things, all he talked about was how much he loved his children in America, and what his great plans were, and how much he looked forward to coming back to America and being back with his wife and his children. Well, it so happened that as he talked about these things, the barber that he talked with, who was a second cousin of his wife in America, was very inspired by this. And so he would write letters to the wife talking about how much he loved what the man was saying and how wonderful his love for his children and his plans for his children were. And when the man would go out to dinner with friends, they would write to the wife because they were friends of hers from growing up, and they would write letters and say how much they loved what the man said about his children. And when the man would go out and work with his co-workers in the field, who also were friends of his wife, they would write her letters back in America about how wonderful the man was and how inspired they were by his love and grand plans for his children when he returned to America. The wife received all of these letters and read them and loved them, but she got many of them over a period of time. And so she decided to put them together, not all of them, some of them she put in, some of them she left out, and bound them in a book. And that book was a book of letters that she then was able to give to her growing children, some who could read the letters and some who were not old enough to read, and she would read them and explain them to the children. The point here is that she oversaw the project. She took the letters, which were written in the words of the barber, which were different than the words of her social friends back in England, which were different than the words and the style of writing of the friends in the field with the man. She oversaw the project and put them all together in a book for her children to read, which revealed the great love and will and plans of the Father for his children when he came home. That story, that analogy, I hope, helps explain that God oversaw the project of the Bible, so that what we have now is written by different people in different times in different places, but the entire project was overseen by God. And so when we go to the Bible, we understand that, yes, different people wrote the Bible at different times, but the project was put together by God, and he oversaw it so that his children would understand his will, his word, and his plan. And the book that I wanted to mention to you that will explain more of the detail about how the Bible was originally written in Hebrew and Aramaic and Greek, and then manuscripts were then copied, and they all came together over a period of time. If you want to really understand that, there's a great book by Lightfoot, and it's called How We Got the Bible. It's available on Amazon.com. The author's name is Neil Lightfoot. How We Got the Bible. I highly recommend it. So until next time, Rick Tryon with BibleRebel.com, and we'll get into some of the different books of the Bible and what they mean and how you can understand them a little better next time. Thanks. Bye-bye.